Social Security just mailed you something that you absolutely want to open right away. This is not one of those letters you leave sitting on the counter for weeks or toss into a pile of paperwork. This is something you want to open, read, and hold on to, because with everything that is happening right now around potential $2,000 payments, dividend-style checks, and stimulus-style distributions that the president has talked about multiple times over the past few months, this document could end up being far more important than most people realize. Now, I'll be honest with you up front. This video is going to feel like it jumps around a little bit because there are a lot of moving parts right now. There are different government agencies involved, multiple policy conversations happening at the same time, and a bunch of separate headlines that don't seem connected on the surface. But when you step back and look at the bigger picture, these things start to line up in a way that matters, especially if you're living on Social Security, SSDI, SSI, or any kind of fixed income. And before you click away, thinking, yeah, I already know what Social Security mailed me, I want to encourage you to stick around. Because when I tell you what the letter is, you're probably going to think, that's not a big deal. But when you see how this connects to the $2,000 payments the president has mentioned, the reconciliation package lawmakers are working on, and the broader push around who qualifies for future relief, this starts to look a lot more strategic than random. So first, let's talk about what you actually received from Social Security. In January, Social Security mailed out the SSA 1099 form to beneficiaries. This is your official tax document that shows exactly how much income you received from Social Security during 2025. If you have a My Social Security account and you opted in for digital delivery, you would have seen this in your online account starting December 25th, 2025. If you rely on paper mail, Social Security began mailing hard copies on December 26th, 2025, and most people receive them in early January. Now, a lot of people see this and say, I don't file taxes, so this doesn't apply to me. And some people literally throw it away. I would strongly suggest you do not do that. Even if you don't normally file a tax return, this document is still your official income record from Social Security. And the reason that matters this year has less to do with taxes and more to do with how potential future payments might be verified or distributed. This is where things start to connect. Right now, lawmakers are actively working on another reconciliation package, often referred to as OBBB 2.0. You'll remember that last summer, on July 4th, a major tax bill was signed into law, and that led to thousands of dollars in refunds and credits being issued through the Treasury as people filed their tax returns. That first package showed how quickly large amounts of money can move when Congress decides to bundle relief measures into one bill. The new reconciliation effort is reportedly targeting significant progress by the end of this month, with potential movement later in the spring or early summer. And here's why that matters. Reconciliation bills are one of the few legislative vehicles where lawmakers can include financial relief measures, rebates, or dividend-style distributions without needing the same level of bipartisan support that normal legislation requires. So, when people ask, where would the $2,000 payments even come from? This is one of the most realistic answers. If anything were to move forward, this is the type of package where it would likely be attached. Now layer on top of that what the president has been saying. Over the past several months, the president has referenced the idea of sending money back to Americans in the form of dividend payments, stimulus-style checks, or rebate distributions. These comments have come up in interviews, public remarks, and broader discussions about affordability, rising costs, and how households are being squeezed by higher prices. This does not mean checks are approved. It does not mean payments are guaranteed. But when the same idea keeps resurfacing at the presidential level, it tells you that this concept is still on the table. It hasn't been quietly buried. And that alone is enough to pay attention to. Now let's talk about another piece that doesn't get enough attention in these conversations: the role of the IRS and data sharing. Recently, The IRS provided information to ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, related to individuals who had filed tax returns. Whether you agree with that policy or not, it highlights how interconnected tax records, identity verification, and federal databases have become. This is relevant because any future payment program would likely rely on similar systems to determine eligibility and prevent fraud. At the same time, immigration enforcement has been a major priority for this administration. Raids and enforcement actions have been happening across the country, and there has been a strong emphasis on ensuring that government benefits are directed toward Americans. Again, I'm not making a political argument here. I'm simply pointing out the policy environment we're operating in right now. When you put all of this together, you start to see why something as boring as your SSA 1099 suddenly matters more than usual. If a future $2,000 payment program were to move forward, one of the biggest questions would be how eligibility is verified. In the past, people did not always need to file tax returns to receive stimulus payments. But given the current emphasis on verification, data matching, and targeting benefits to Americans, it's not unreasonable to think that tax records and official income documentation could play a larger role this time around. That does not mean it will happen. It means it's a possibility. And the people who are prepared for that possibility are going to be in a much better position than the people who aren't. This is why holding on to your SSA 1099 is such a simple but powerful move. It's not about panic. It's about being ready. If nothing happens, you've lost nothing. But if something does happen, you're already ahead of the game. Now, I want to pause here and make something very clear. There is no confirmed $2,000 payment program. There is no official timeline. There is no finalized policy. The president has talked about it. Lawmakers are working on budget packages, but nothing has been enacted yet. That said, we've seen over and over again how quickly things can move once a political decision is made. When stimulus programs were approved in the past, many people were caught off guard by how fast deadlines, portals, and requirements were rolled out. And the people who already had their information in order were the ones who experienced the fewest headaches. So, when Social Security mails you official documentation of your income, it's not just paperwork. It's part of your financial identity within the federal system. And in a year where multiple agencies, multiple policies, and multiple financial discussions are overlapping, that kind of documentation suddenly becomes more relevant. And here's the bigger picture that I want you to think about. You have rising costs everywhere. You have millions of people on fixed incomes struggling to keep up. You have the president repeatedly mentioning dividend-style payments. You have lawmakers working on reconciliation packages that could carry relief measures. You have federal agencies tightening verification and data sharing. None of this guarantees that money is coming, but it creates the conditions where relief programs are more likely to be discussed, proposed, and potentially revived. That's why I keep saying, open the letter, check the information, make sure it's accurate, and hold on to it. Because if and when money does start moving, the people who are ready are the ones who benefit first and with the least stress. We don't know exactly what 2026 is going to bring. We don't know if the $2,000 payments will move forward, what the eligibility rules would look like, or how distribution would happen. But we do know that this year is shaping up to be one where financial policy could shift quickly if political momentum builds. So don't ignore that Social Security letter. It may feel boring, it may feel routine, but in a year like this, routine paperwork can suddenly become the key piece of the puzzle.